Hello and welcome back to Finer Designers Watch Edition. And right now I want to talk to you about one of the most exciting and innovative brands in the watch market today, and that's Ernst Benz. And I'm joined today by Leonid Khankin, who is the Managing and Creative Director for Ernst Benz.
Hi Holly, thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming. You have one of the most fascinating stories in the industry. You know, for someone to grow up learning about watches, I think that's a very fascinating story.
Thank you. I was actually born in St. Petersburg, Russia, and my father was one of the youngest men to ever work for a shop that many years before him was the watchmaker to the Tsar. So I was classically trained by him, and we grew up doing restoration of very important timepieces.
And so when you moved to Michigan, you were quite young.
Well, we went from Russia to Rome, and then my parents moved to an area outside of Detroit, and my father ran a small shop fixing watches, and I went to work with him when I was 5 years old and grew up fixing watches with him.
So that's how the world gets Lenny from Michigan making Ernst Benz watches.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's something that a lot of guests, a lot of watch shoppers don't realize, is that there are amazing Swiss watch companies in the world, amazing brands, but most of them are run, far and away almost all of them, are run by big conglomerates, big companies. You have suits, and with Ernst Benz, I mean, you're the man.
Well, it's true that many of the great companies in Switzerland today are run by large corporations, but there is a body of these independent, amazing artisan watchmakers and craftsmen, and it's really this rich tradition of craftsmanship that's existed in Switzerland for centuries. I mean, today, Ernst Benz really represents the spirit of travel and the art of watchmaking. We were founded by Mr. Benz nearly 50 years ago, an iconic manufacturer, engineer, and brilliant gentleman, and he had founded the company making aircraft instruments, which grew to making the kind of watches that he admired, that pilots had worn in the mid-century. But these kind of watches really grew into what became the modern wristwatch. Watches have been part of travel since the beginning of production of watches and since people began traveling. So it's very natural, the kind of watches that we produce, and especially making sense in the Caribbean, where people come to travel to discover more interesting things, amazing watches, amazing diamonds and jewelry, things that they might not see at home, which is what people have always done. They've traveled to find great watches.
Well, and one thing that I love about Ernst Benz is that for people who are watching any fashion TVs or fashion TV shows, or if they're looking at the pages of People or In Style, you're going to see some big name celebrities wearing Ernst Benz. And then they have the opportunity to shop for those same watches this week on their cruise.
I mean, we're very humbled. Some of the most interesting people in the world choose Ernst Benz. What we produce is mechanical watches. It takes nearly a year to make a watch like this. All of the watches that we produce are mechanical, so this is tradition and craftsmanship. This is today what you can buy, which is multi-generational. I mean, what do people want? They want their grandfather's watch, they want their grandma's watch. But even though this has a taste of that, it's really about modern style. We work within a traditional context, but it's really about modern design and about the people who buy our watches today. And within this, there's a number of different collections of Ernst Benz that we use very much as a palette to tell our story. Traditional, this idea of the vintage watches that we grew up restoring. Contemporary, the idea of the founder of our company. The hands of the propeller, the dial of the vinyl record, and the new instrument series, which is really designed based on the original instrumentation that Mr. Benz started producing nearly a century ago. And although there's only about 100 places in the world where you can purchase an Ernst Benz, here in the Caribbean, in nearly every port, there's a retailer representing Ernst Benz.
Yeah, and that's such an exciting opportunity that guests don't realize that most of the time, to go shopping for the things they're going to see in the Caribbean, they'd have to travel around the world. And in essence, they are. They come on a cruise, and instead of having to fly to New York or LA in order to see an amazing selection of Ernst Benz, they're on the cruise. It's naturally at their doorstep when they walk off the ship in the islands.
You're going to see in the Caribbean what you would have to travel from New York to Hong Kong and back to Switzerland to be able to see. And we're very, very proud of our partnerships in this part of the world. And new for this year, we've actually brought into this market, as one of the only markets to have this, is a completely new design of Ernst Benz, where we're now making the watch, not just in steel, but there's a new way to finish black steel. It's actually a technology that was developed by the Russian military to coat helicopter blades, to protect them in flight. And we've used this technique to actually protect the steel, so that when people buy a mechanical watch that will last for centuries, Now we can figure out different ways to protect the outside of the case so the aesthetic of the watch is protected the way that the movement is protected by the case itself.
You know, there's very few things that are multi-generational, things that are designed to outlive the wearer. And a watch is definitely one of the very few things, other than real estate and artwork. Most of the things you're going to buy aren't going to outlive you.
Well, we talk about this all the
nice
time.
watch is.
Airplanes, cars, ships, we scrap. The things that we can really today buy that's going to be here when we're gone, a beautiful diamond and a fine watch. And which is really the ultimate.
And if you're a lady that's lucky enough to have one of the beautiful ladies versions of Ernst Benz here, you can get both of those in one beautiful diamond bezel on your Ernst Benz.
Yes, even our entire ladies collection is produced exclusively mechanical, but features VS1 FG diamonds. So diamonds of the highest quality with movements of the greatest tradition.
And I'm sure what a lot of guests are wondering right now, where do I go and how do I find Ernst Benz this cruise? And lucky for you, you have a dedicated person on board whose sole responsibility is to help you go shopping. And of course, that's your shopping guide. So make sure you find your shopping guide, whether it's at their desk hours or at any of the events they're hosting, and ask them where you can find Ernst Benz. In almost every island you're going to visit, Diamonds International has a huge selection of all the best sellers, the most popular models, and definitely a great partner for Ernst Benz. So ask your shopping guide how you can get a VIP shopping card and experience Ernst Benz. So Lenny from Detroit, thank you very much for coming in and sharing your story and sharing the history of Ernst Benz with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and stay tuned, everyone. We've got a lot more shopping information coming your way right here.